the meeting. Let's see, first thing, I'd like to welcome Jane Hall, our board's new administrative assistant, who will be hosting the meeting live from Town Hall. And thank Barbara Herbst for many meetings she covered, and Joyce Hart for covering the office for many months. So anyway, thank you, Jane. And we've already had quite a few people come to visit at the Town Hall, and things are going well. So first thing on our agenda is approval of minutes of the 7th of February. Is there a motion to approve? Okay, Priscilla makes the motion. I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Next is budget 2023. I did discuss and present our draft budget with the Board of Finance last week. It was well received, and and the next event on the town's budget calendar is the school is going to present their budget to the Board of Finance on the 16th of March. So again, we're still in the draft. We're still in the draft phase of the budget, but things are moving along. We did get a request from the SAGE project, which was formerly known as Women's Support Services, to double their increase, to double their annual contribution. The town gives them currently $1,500. They've given us quite a long letter about how the needs of their clients for their organization has grown extraordinarily over the last 5 years, and so they are asking us to double our allotment. And I know we do work with them as a town, and they do list the numbers of cases that are referred to this Project SAGE, formerly the Women's Support Emergency Services. So we did get some news, good news. High school reduced proposed increase by $11,000 last week. So what does the board feel about increasing this allocation? Priscilla, you're muted, but feel free to unmute and talk. There we go.
Now am I unmuted? Hello?
Yes, you're all set.
Okay.
Yes, you're unmuted.
In favor of the increased request. It makes sense to me.
Okay, is that a motion then?
I also move. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, so, okay.
I'll second that for discussion. Hi, Janet. Yes. Any thoughts, Janet?
I did not hear how much the additional request was for.
It is doubling their allocation from $1,500 to $3,000. And I just got a
Were they
thing over
specific about what the were they specific about what the allocation was going to be used for?
Yeah,
The
they were just-
additional amount?
well, it's part of a ongoing programs they have, both educational, everything from education program. They have seen a 95% increase in the number of hotline crisis calls for the first 6 months of this fiscal year. They're at 1,200 calls, and this is just Northwestern Connecticut. So they're seeing increase.
I mean, did they specifically say, we need $1,500 to buy 7 things of
They're
diapers,
expanding-
answer 6 phone calls or something like that?
Yeah, they were. Basically, this is going to allow them to expand their staff. They have 13 people currently. They're doing everything from education programs in the school to representing clients in court, domestic violence cases, giving safe housing for people in crisis. So there's no, and I sent you this morning a 2-page letter from them, which explains it better than I can, but basically right along there, the services that they're seeing a big increase in demand for everything from medical, legal, housing needs for families in crisis. So, I mean, we don't have to decide this tonight, but did you get it? Did you see the email?
No, I didn't see an email.
No, neither did I.
Okay, well, we can table this till,
I would just like to know specifically, you know, like what it is, because it's more staff work, you know. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, it's not like they're asking a lot of money, but I want additional funding, not a problem, but I would like them to be able to specifically cite what it is they're using that additional funding for.
okay, we'll resend the letter because it does seem they've had a 22% increase in client lists. I mean, it just right across the board, everything they do, they're seeing an increased need, which they're trying to meet with increased staff. So why don't we can table this to
Well,
next
but I
time.
mean, we don't have anything specific to go on. Yeah, because I mean, like they may have had a 22% increase in calls, but maybe they get 5 calls. You know what I mean? So I would just like to know
I think it's a more serious
what
presentation.
they're
than
looking
that.
for.
I mean, they're recording 1,200 calls for half the year on their hotline. Last year, their whole year, they were 1,400. I mean, for a very small catchment area, that's a lot of crisis calls.
So the documentation came this morning from my email. This is Barbara, and we just verified, we just resent it to you both. So you should have it again.
Okay, thank you.
So why don't we, I said, we're not meeting with the Board of Finance again for a while, so why don't we give you a chance to look at all this? And again, we haven't increased spending for our nonprofits, but I do think this in particular is a frontline organization, and they've been at their current level of funding for a number of years. I'll find out how many years that's been, but certainly the whole domestic crisis situation in the area has changed dramatically in the last 3 or 4 years. So everyone uncomfortable with that, tabling that budgetary item? I didn't have anything else on our budget for tonight. That was sort of the only proposed change that we had. But first, let's get back to additions to the agenda. I skipped over that, I'm sorry. Addition to the agenda, I had 2.
I actually haven't seen the,
Say again?
I did not get the agenda today.
Because I just got one over my email a second time. So we're gonna have to sort it out what's happening, because it doesn't seem like things are getting through. I'm not quite sure why that is.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no agenda, there's no link, so, it's
I
it'll be
own
helpful to
the
that
agenda.
to be a little more buttoned up.
Janet, I did email it over to you on Thursday at 2:22 PM. The agenda.
Okay, well, I actually looked for it and I did not see it. So let's just make sure we're connecting on that.
Can we screenshot the agenda? Okay, so there's the agenda as posted. So where we're at additions to the agenda. I had several. One was Mira, municipal solid waste, and the second was building official. Is there, are there any other additions to the agenda?
No.
There's a second to add those two things.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So we've gone over the budget, item number 1. Next, we have appointments. Chris Sampson to the Economic Development Commission. I believe that has been approved by the EDC. And the second is Kimberly Balkenberg to Park and Rec, again, with the recommendation of the Park and Recreation Commission. So I would make a motion that we appoint those 2 people.
Second,
Any discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Next, we have a proposal from Valley View Construction or Services. This is to hook up the generator that was in, the town got a grant to have a generator. We never hooked it up. It's been tested. This is Garrett Janine. And he is proposing to hook it up and put in a new transfer system and make it usable for the town hall. So the town hall would have its own generator. So are there any questions about this? So I'd make a motion to accept Valley View Services proposal to hook up the town hall to a generator for $4,800 and $76.20. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
So I'm assuming other bids were gathered and this was the most reasonable one.
I did talk to other people about it and they didn't get back to me with a bid. So this is the one that seems like it's going to make the project happen.
Okay, so no other bids were received?
No,
Interesting. Okay.
and it's a tricky piece of work.
I'm assuming this is somebody who does this on a regular basis too.
Yes, he hooked up the generator most recently at the Cornwall Bridge Firehouse.
Okay.
So any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So next we have Houstonic Railroad Company Vegetation Management Plan response. I did meet with some members of the conservation community last week and went over the situation with railroad spraying regionally. And I've drafted this letter so did you get a chance to read that?
No, I did not see this.
Neither did I, but I did see the sign up in West Cornwall today that said no spraying
Okay,
by the Wish House.
can you look through this and so we can get it off because it's due on March 1st?
I like the idea that you're suggesting they do something more environmentally sensitive, such as the Massachusetts regulations.
Yes.
I think
And
people
I
sometimes
think
forget about water. I mean, most of us right along that area all have private wells as well. And that is another thing I worry about when I see heavy duty sprays coming about. We're
right,
on
and
water, most of it.
item number 6, where we talk about a particular insecticide, which I was not familiar with, but apparently was on their list, possible spray list last time around, was method 240 SL, which apparently on its label has do not use near water bodies. So again, that's being proposed to be sprayed right by the river, according to people.
So
So,
we're requesting and demanding these things, but I mean, what's the next step?
The next step is
I'm sure they get plenty of letters from people who don't like what they're doing, but I want to make sure that we've got a plan to not just send them a letter telling them what we're urging, demanding, and requesting, but getting next steps done.
yeah, I think in number 9, you'll see we'll be requesting a regular meeting as soon as possible with railroad, DOT, DEP, state representatives, and officials from other towns and agencies to discuss these matters of mutual concern. So I've already talked to Maria Horn, and she is in favor of meeting. She's going to talk with State Senator Harding, who's also on the Environment Committee, ranking member on the Environment Committee. And they both, I believe, have great concern about this. And from what I hear from people I met with last week, there are people in other towns that share these concerns. So the thought is before the spray season, which is probably June, July, nothing spray currently, that probably within the next month, we would have a meeting of officials and these agencies to discuss these points.
Good.
Are
So
we
that's the next
demanding
step.
notification prior to spraying?
Yes, that's in this letter.
Okay. Is that a demand
Specific times.
or a request? Okay. Yeah, because I mean, that's pretty key is, being demand, good. Because I would want to know exactly what they're doing, when they're gonna do it, and who's gonna do it. That's perfect.
And again, the next step too is to look at the statutes in Massachusetts, because clearly the railroad is following the law by giving us the same plan, or filing this plan. This plan, as we've seen, is prepared for most of the railroads in Connecticut. And this plan we got this year is the same as last year and the year before. There's no change in the plan from year to year. The group that prepares the plan is not the railroad, it's not the spray company. It's just a railroad engineering firm that files these plans. But currently the state law just requires them to file a plan. It doesn't require them to go much farther than that. So I think our legislators are interested in trying to improve on what are the state regulations. So then is there a motion to send this letter off?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
any more discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good.
Gordon, I would request that this be a regular topic on our agenda because it impacts all of our citizens' health.
Okay,
Because I don't want this to, I want to make sure that we're following up on it to ensure that they are doing what we have asked.
right. I mean, we have it. The standard procedure is we file these letters, they file their plan, and we don't hear back. So again, that's the whole point of this meeting, and putting it on our legislators' radar, because those seem to be the two. I mean, it's going to come down to revising the state statutes and operating procedures. As we all know, also this is state property. The rail bed belongs to the state, it's leased to the railroad company. So, okay, anything else on the railroad? Compost. I did visit the transfer station this morning, met with our crew, and went visited with Karen Nelson, just to make sure she, as a land use official, was comfortable with our rough plan, so that before I submitted something to the state. These are Ted's sketches that he didn't intend to be put out in public, but I thought they were very useful and good. So again, the map comes first. This is what we're talking about, modeled on what we saw in Litchfield. There's an area to the right of the building as you drive into the transfer station that is available for use. So the idea was to level the site, raise up the site, bring some processed gravel in on the top of regular gravel, and then establish a 3-bay area for a leaf pile with lawn clippings, raw material, and then a working pile in the middle where the leaves, lawn clippings would be mixed with people's food waste. One question came about, I believe that is vegetable matter, not including meat byproducts, because that is a whole nother issue. But basically everybody's green garbage can be put there eventually under instruction and organization, and then that pile will be actively worked, and after a period of time it will go to the finished pile up at the top of the pyramid there, where things will be broken down and broken down worked state and available for people's gardens. So that's the basis on which we're going to apply to the state. So Karen had no problems with this. These are all intrinsically harmless materials, and we're doing something positive by getting a good byproduct here in town. So, any comments on this? I hope to get this off in an application this week to the state.
So do we have materials to educate people exactly what they can and cannot compost and, you know, kind of how the program works?
No, we don't have that yet. The whole, we do have people willing to help with the education program. But until we get approval from the state, we don't know in what form our setup will have. The state will tell us whether they like this idea, whether we need more aspects or to it. In Litchfield, they did have closed containers that people's garbage went into, and then they were dumped by the crew into a pile. So there are a few things like that we've got to work out in our presentation. So the thought is that we can't really publicize the program until we get the state sign off. But it'll be pretty quick, pretty easy to come up with a program, and fairly easy to construct the space. But again, the thought of a chronicle insert or publicity, even a video or something of what we got, would be educational, fun, fairly easy to accomplish, I think. Okay, any other thoughts on this? So the thought is to try to get this in the state as quick as possible, so we can hear back as soon as we can and get lined up for our end of April deadline.
Good.
Okay, so last meeting we voted to apply, so I think we're hitting the early approval buttons. So any other comments? Will and Ted, are you on tonight? Any thoughts? Okay, so anyway, we'll be
But our
talking.
deadline was Earth Day.
That is our deadline, to try to
That's
get it
April.
operating.
Okay,
What?
so that's April 22nd, correct?
Correct. So.
Okay.
Yeah, again, this will be an ongoing thing. So the thought is to try to, we can get it out the end of February. You're back from state, hopefully as soon as possible, so we can get some stuff in the Chronicle for April. But that means we have to hear by mid-March. So we'll see how, whether if we don't get it, we don't get everything lined up for the Chronicle in April, we'll get something in May, we'll get some information out. So let's see, anything else on compost? So then trips grant, West Cornwall, Cornwall Bridge, etc. That I believe is also a April deadline. And we have talked about doing something along the idea of crosswalks, pedestrian friendly things. And my thought at this point, it might be good to have some on-site meetings, depending on the weather in March. Let people express their ideas or thoughts. Maybe get an engineer there. Ideas a crosswalk in Cornwall Bridge and a crosswalk in West Cornwall, trying to improve the parking conditions in both places, make them both a little more pedestrian friendly. Any thoughts from the board? I don't have anything really to present. I have some sketches of generic crosswalks and what's the other word they use? Speed tables, which are like a speed bump, but it's bigger, size of a table, so you don't doesn't jar you when you go over it, but you notice it. Another name for it is like an elevated walkway, so you know there's something there to slow you down. It's an idea. I'm not a huge fan of speed bumps, but apparently this is a new concept. So, any thoughts about meeting in March? Some, sort of like an on-site working meeting at some point?
Yeah, I talked to Karen Nelson about that. She would like to get, the engineer, herself and the selectmen, at each location to see, like kind of where and what would be most appropriate, so we can start drawing some sketches out and get at least a preliminary idea that we can just make sure is going to work with the grant, because we don't want to write the grant and turn it in and have it not be appropriate.
Okay, good. So do you know, Janet, are crosswalks and other traffic, what they call it, traffic calming devices, are they allowed in this grant, as well as, I'm talking sidewalks, maybe repaving some
Yes.
areas?
Yes.
All those would be the integral parts.
Yes.
Parking,
Yeah.
crosswalks.
Yeah, I think that they would just want
speed reduction.
Yeah, we could just get a preliminary look at it and just get some feedback. You may want to add this, you may want to change this wording a little bit, just to get our best shot at it, because it's $5 million for 3 years. It's a $15 million grant.
For each cog.
I don't know about that, but I know that for this particular grant, that's what it is. I think that is the case, but we would have access to $15 million over 3 years.
The
Pretty good
cog,
chunk of change.
I think.
Yes,
I
it's
think
through the cog.
I think each, they have them like $300,000 project cap for each town or something like that. But I think our cog is eligible for more, because there's so many rural. It's also, I think this thing is supposed to be for small towns, so we have the ability to have the most grants out here. And again, the thought is, especially, if the new market's opening eventually, hopefully this spring, in Cornwall Bridge, integrating that into these plans. And if we are doing serious work on the wastewater project in West Cornwall, it's a good time to accommodate more traffic and try to calm it down and look at parking if there is going to be more activity there. So again, yeah, let's try to work what might be some convenient times. And again, these would be public meetings, so we would like to have people there at the early stages as we walk our way through, get some stakeholders involved. If available, it's probably a daytime meeting. A little hard to talk about traffic in the dark. So that'd be some sort of afternoon or something like that. Okay, so let's think about March for that. Maybe
It
early
should be
March.
earlier in March. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so we'll try to do something. Well, we could I'll try to see when the engineer is available, and Karen's here see what Karen's schedule is. See if I can get Janelle Mullen, who's our land use planner. We can even invite the head of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Anna Jamel. And see what is it sort of a day that works for everybody, and then put this again as an agenda thing for next time, and set some times. Our first meeting in March, maybe for the week afterwards or mid-March, and be able to announce it to get
just
people.
keep in
there.
mind that grant has to be written. So, you want to have as much lead time as possible. You want to be able to submit the preliminary and then start working on the actual grant.
Right. Okay. So. Any other thoughts on the trips? Okay, so we'll try to tackle that in earnest next month.
Yeah, they just said the more complete and finished and final our grant is, the more likely we are to get funding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming we're gonna need some, at least some draft sketches of what work's gonna happen where.
Yeah, that's easy to do.
Right. Okay, anything else on trips? Tax refunds, we have several. Let's see. We had a couple from payments. All right, so. So these are overpayments.
And there's 11 of them in here.
Okay. It's tax season. We do appreciate everybody's generosity, but people do not have to pay their taxes twice. They're paid in 2 installments, but half is due each half of the year. So that's why we have more this time of year. So I'll make a motion to grant these tax refunds as requested by the tax collectors. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that's tax refunds. Next on the additions, we have Mira, Municipal Solid Waste. I attended a Zoom meeting today with the board of directors and the executive people from Mira, which is the place that we handles our garbage. I do have a copy of PowerPoint, which we will make sure you get. There was sort of short-term good news that the governor is proposing some legislation which is aligned with what the Mira board would like to do. And as a backdrop, probably 2/3 of, Mira is probably handling now about 1/3 of the tonnage of garbage that it used to handle, if that. The amount of municipalities has dropped considerably in the last couple of years. And so the question is, what happens to Mira? They're under contract with us for several more years. The governor's legislation has Mira going out of business in 2 years, I believe, and being taken over by the state. And long-term being 2 years, there will be another organization, whether it's the state or another intermunicipal group, to handle the marketing and disposal of garbage. So the Mira board was aligned with what the governor had proposed. He also is proposing in his legislation I believe, $5 tip fee to help the state plan a long-term solution for this issue. So short-term, next year's budget, the tip fees make up about 10%. We're hoping to offset some of that 10% with our composting project. But long-term, these towns are going to have to look at doing something besides Mira, because the sun is setting on that organization. But there are probably 30 towns that are still involved with this, and they are looking for some cooperative thing. The key thing is there's a transfer station in Torrington. All of our municipal solid waste goes transported by Paynes to the transfer station in Torrington, and then it is trucked out. So keeping that transfer station as an aggregator of garbage for Northwestern Connecticut is important, but that's one of the questions, is who's going to own that and operate it. So again, this short term, next year or so, looks like it's going to cost us more money, but there will be a way to do it. Beyond that, there's still going to have to be, as we say, a continuing agenda item. This issue is not resolved at the present time. The governor's legislation does focus on the issue, but it does not contain a permanent solution that we had with an incinerator in Hartford. So anyway, expect more information on that issue, but at least people are meeting about it. Any other thoughts or comments? Second, I added item is Paul Prindle, our 20-year building official, would like to retire. His certification is up at the end of this month. He is not going to go through the certification process. I do apparently have the authority to appoint him on a temporary basis while we search for a replacement. He is asking other building officials, like a lot of these municipal positions, there are more positions than there are people to fill it. Peter Russ, who is a local contractor, is going to school with Paul's blessing, with the thought of becoming the town building official. He is partway through his course in Hartford. So what I would like to do is appoint Paul as our temporary building official. He's done an excellent job for over 20 years. We will miss him. Over 20 years, I've gotten no complaints about Paul, only praise of people, of his helpful nature and being able to help people with their building projects. So anyway, we'd like to keep him on a temporary basis and have Peter become his assistant and mentor him and help Peter get through certification process. Right now, apparently there is a shortage of building officials in Northwest Connecticut as the senior ones retire, and these courses are fairly rigorous to become one. So is that all clear at this point?
What is Peter's last name?
Peter Russ?
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Are you making a motion of some kind? Is there action we need to take?
No, just a report that's where things are at this point, because I can make that appointment. So just an update of where we're at with that. And again, trying to keep the office open. It's good to have an office in Northwest Lumber or Northeast Builders Supply, have a local building office, as opposed to having some where people have to travel out of town to get that service.
Is Peter paying for this out of his own pocket, those classes?
I believe he is paying for it, and I think Paul is going to compensate him for being his assistant.
Do you have an idea of how much that costs?
I do not know how much that costs.
I wonder if it might be appropriate for the town to help pay for that, if it's an expensive thing. If we want him to be the next person and we don't want somebody to snag him out from under us, it might be a good idea to have an agreement with him to pay for his stuff if he agrees to be our next building inspector.
I'll bring that up with him. He hasn't mentioned that, but I'll bring that up to him. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, any public comments? Let's see. Can't see.
Hi, Gordon.
Hey, Michelle.
I have something. Park and Rec's movie night on Saturday. I don't know what everybody's doing, but we are showing Wonder. Starting 5:30, Town Hall. Bring a blanket, pillow. We're going to have some snacks available, concessions, popcorn, pizza. Fun Saturday night, so nobody has to get up Sunday for school or work. So it should be a really fun night. Hope to see people there.
Okay. Thank you for your efforts to keep us entertained.
I have,
Yes. Hi, Nancy.
hi, I have two comments. Whoops, I lost you.
Still hear you.
Okay. As far as the SAGE project, I really urge the BOS to take a serious look at granting them that $1,500. The Cornwall Women's Society supports them with a small grant, and we've done a lot of research on their program. Through the pandemic, their caseload has increased exponentially. Dr. Betsy Morrow is the director of SAGE. She is a resident of West Cornwall, grew up here, and two other Cornwall residents are very active on with that as well. They're employed with SAGE. So I would hope that the $1,500 could be granted to their very worthy work, educating and caring for those in crisis with domestic violence. And the other comment I have really has to do with composting. We're excited about this. The Cornwall Conservation Commission is very excited about the compost program to be held hopefully at the transfer station. And we, on April 22nd, along with the Cornwall Garden Club, are sponsoring an event at the Cornwall Library. There are three speakers that we have lined up for sure. One is Dr. Lucas from the Carey Institute. One is Michael Nadeau, who is an agriculturalist from Sharon. And one is Barbara Bettigol, who was influential with the Sharon composting program. And she is a wealth of information in educating the community and has shared with the Conservation Commission a lot of her posters and programs that were successful with building excitement in Sharon. So we hope that many in the community will come on April 22nd. And hopefully by then we'll have an idea that Cornwall has received the permits and the go-ahead to do their program. So we're excited.
Yeah, something to look forward to. Great. Okay, thank you, Nancy. Any other comments?
Well, just to
Yes,
welcome
Riley.
Jane
Oh.
too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Riley.
Hey, Gordon, how's it going?
Good.
Good. Two quick questions. First, what is the spelling of Paul Rust's last name? Or Peter Rust?
Peter Russ, R-U-S-S is his last name.
R-U-S-S. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. And for the Housatonic Railroad letter, is it possible for me to get a copy of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Jane can, you have Riley's email, don't you, Jane? We can get you something tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yes. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Janet.
So I just want to make sure that Priscilla and I, for the upcoming meeting, are connected to Jane, because it's been multiple times in a row, and I do not fault Jane in the least for this. I think I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but I want to make sure that we're getting access to the documents, the Zoom link, the agenda, and I just want to make sure everything's connected. So Jane, I'll reach out to you tomorrow. We can do some testing and just figure out like where that's going. So it's just a matter of, we just need to get our heads together and make sure that that's happening, because we don't want to take time during meetings to read documents, and both of us like to think through, how we're responding to things. So we're glad
Yeah,
you're
what
here.
we'll do is, we've been sending stuff along, and we'll just make sure and some things we get like today, but we'll make sure on Tuesday that you've gotten everything. We made an effort to do that this week, because I know we had problems last week and we reached out. But anyway, we will redouble those efforts to make sure everything's in your
Yeah, and if
hand.
there's stuff
Usually
that's
we send
last
stuff-
minute,
No, I mean, usually we
Yeah,
send
stuff is
stuff out.
last minute. Well,
Usually
I
we
mean, there was
send
stuff
stuff
sent
out
out
on
this evening.
Thursday. In fact, the agenda's up on the website, so obviously we sent, it went somewhere on Thursday, so we just
Yeah.
will find out to make sure it all goes on.
If there are last minute things, I would just like to set up so that I can have a text so that I'm aware I need to go read documents or think about things beforehand. I'm sure Priscilla would appreciate similar notification. Just so we can be prepared. So I'll reach out to you tomorrow, Jane. Thank you.
That works. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, anything else, Priscilla?
Yes, while Michelle is here, I just wanted to thank our Park and Rec department. As a senior, I went to the Valentine luncheon, and it's always so much fun. And Michelle and her team do a great job. Everyone feels welcomed and very special. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome, Priscilla. I just want to say this month was special because Park and Rec Jen Marco, director, myself, and Melissa Bronson made lunch for our seniors. So they had a homemade Cornwall luncheon that day. So it was a fun day.
Okay, so anything else?
Well, and actually, Gordon, on that note, Priscilla brings forth, we've been talking about in Park and Rec that luncheon is not just for quote unquote seniors. It is a community luncheon. So, you know, you don't have to be a certain age to attend. It is to build community, chat with your neighbor. The food is just the bonus part. So we really do encourage anyone who has a Tuesday afternoon or a Tuesday morning. Second Tuesday of the month is lunch, and fourth Tuesday of the month is breakfast. So if you want to come out and chat with your neighbors, please do. And I just have to say that as a newer Cornwallian, there's nothing like sitting down with our seniors to learn the history of town and make the connections. And it's a really good time. The conversation is always great. So we encourage and invite anyone who wants to come out in Cornwall to come join us.
Okay, got it. Very good. Thank you. All right. So we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.